Have you ever noticed how love songs, they always make it sound so simple.
Mm.
Like it's this one-size-fits-all feeling. But then
Right.
you look at your own life, your relationships, and it's a whole different story, isn't it?
Yeah. It's true. Love is anything but straightforward. There are
Mm.
so many layers, so many nuances.
Right.
It's a lot more complex and, frankly, a lot more interesting than a 3-minute pop song can capture.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so fascinated by this article we're diving into today.
Mm.
Let's unpack the 3 juicy ingredients of true love. You ready to get a little scientific about love?
Absolutely. A little knowledge can go a long way, especially when it comes to something as universally sought after as love.
So this article, it breaks love down into 3 core ingredients.
Yeah.
Care, admiration, and desire.
Mm.
And it got me thinking, where does care fit into this whole equation?
Yeah.
Because it's not always the thing we think about first when we think about love.
Mm.
At least not in the romantic sense, right?
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
And the article really emphasizes care as the foundation. It's that sense of feeling safe, seen, and understood by another person.
Mm.
Think of it as the bedrock that allows all the other elements of love to really flourish.
It's interesting you bring up feeling safe because the article actually uses this analogy of a soft blanket on a cold day to describe care,
I love that.
which makes sense because when you really think about it, don't we often crave that feeling of being enveloped, protected in our relationships,
Yeah.
like a safe haven from the storm?
Absolutely. And that feeling of security is so essential because it allows us to be vulnerable.
Mm.
When we know we're cared for unconditionally, we're more likely to kind of let down our guard, to show our true selves, imperfections, and all.
And isn't that vulnerability what allows us to connect with someone on a deeper level? Because if you're not being your authentic self, you're always holding back a part of yourself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
True intimacy requires authenticity,
Mm.
and that can only exist when we feel safe and accepted for who we are at our core.
Mm.
Think about the people in your life who you feel the most comfortable being yourself around. Chances are those are the relationships where care runs deep.
It's so true. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, at least for me. The article argues that this feeling of being cared for, of being able to be our true selves, is actually what paves the way for the next ingredient, admiration. Almost like care sets the stage for genuine admiration to develop.
Mm.
What do you think?
What's fascinating here is that it goes against the conventional narrative, right?
Wow.
We often think of admiration as this initial spark, something that exists before the care sets in. But the article suggests that it's the secure foundation of care that allows us to see someone clearly flaws and still find qualities to admire.
Okay, so let's talk about admiration for a second because I think it can be a tricky one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between healthy admiration and putting someone on a pedestal, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And the article makes a really important distinction. True admiration, the kind that contributes to a fulfilling relationship, isn't about worshiping the ground someone walks on. It's about recognizing qualities in them that resonate with you, qualities that you might even aspire to cultivate in your own life.
So it's almost like their strengths, their passions can become a source of inspiration for us. Wow, I admire how confident they are. I want to be more confident too.
Exactly. It's about recognizing aspects of ourselves reflected back to us in a way that makes us say, I want to cultivate more of that in my own life. It becomes a journey of growth, both individually and together.
Okay, this is really making me think about my own relationships in a whole new light.
Yeah.
All this talk about care and admiration makes sense to me that they go hand in hand. But where does desire fit into all of this? Because it feels like a bit of a wild card.
True desire is often seen as this unpredictable, uncontrollable force.
Right.
And while there's certainly truth to that, the article suggests that true desire, the kind that deepens a relationship, is actually nurtured by the very same elements we've been discussing, care and admiration.
So you're saying care and admiration can actually fuel desire.
Yeah.
I'll admit that's not usually how we think about it.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah?
We're conditioned to think of desire as this spontaneous combustion.
Right.
You see someone across the room and bam! But what if I told you that the most fulfilling kind of desire actually grows out of a deep sense of safety and appreciation?
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
Think about it this way. When someone sees you, truly sees you, and still cheeses you, flaws and all, that's incredibly attractive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It creates this magnetic pull because it makes you feel valued, cherished, desired for who you truly are.
That makes a lot of sense. It's
Yeah.
like that feeling of being known and loved for your authentic self is incredibly seductive.
Exactly. And that's where the article's emphasis on vulnerability comes back into play. Because in order to experience that level of deep, soul stirring desire, we have to be willing to let someone see beyond the surface.
So it's not just about physical attraction, although I'm sure that plays a part. It's about being drawn to someone on multiple levels, emotionally, intellectually, even spiritually.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The article uses this phrase, being real in intimacy, which I think perfectly captures the essence of what we're talking about. It's about being able to let go of pretenses, to be completely yourself, and to know that you're still accepted, still desired. And that kind of intimacy, that's where the real magic happens.
This is giving me so much to think about, especially because it challenges the narrative we often hear about how relationships are supposed to progress.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always about the initial spark fading over time. It's more nuanced than that.
Right. It's not about trying to recapture the intensity of those early days. It's about recognizing that love transforms and evolves, and that those transformations can actually lead to even deeper, more fulfilling forms of connection.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing if the butterflies in your stomach eventually settle down a bit.
Not at all. In fact, the article argues that those initial sparks of passion often evolve into something more sustainable, something more grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of one another. And that's a beautiful thing.
It really is. Because when you think about it, love isn't a static thing. It's a dynamic process.
Yeah.
And like any process, it goes through different stages. So maybe instead of fearing those changes, we should embrace them as opportunities for growth.
I love that perspective because ultimately growth is what makes love sustainable in the long run. Think about it. Wouldn't it be exhausting to maintain that initial level of intensity forever?
Totally. It sounds like the key is to find a balance between that initial spark and the kind of deep, abiding love that can weather life's storms.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that's why the article emphasizes the importance of understanding all three ingredients: care, admiration, and desire. Because it's the interplay of these elements that creates a fulfilling and lasting experience of love.
So it's not about striving for some perfect formula, but rather about recognizing how these ingredients show up in our own relationships and making sure they're all present in a way that feels healthy and fulfilling.
Precisely. And that takes self-awareness, communication, and a willingness to put in the effort to nurture those ingredients over time. It's a lifelong journey, but the rewards are immeasurable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting because up until this point, we've been talking about love in the context of romantic relationships. But I have a feeling these same principles apply to other types of love as well, don't they? Like the love between family members, friends, even the love we have for ourselves. It's interesting because up until this point, we've been talking about love in the context of romantic relationships. But I have a feeling these same principles apply to other types of love as well, don't they? Like the love between family members, friends, even the love we have for ourselves.
You're absolutely right. The principles we've been discussing, care, admiration, desire, they're not limited to romantic love. They're the building blocks of any strong, meaningful connection.
So how do you see these ingredients playing out in, say, a friendship?
Well, think about a close friend, someone you can always count on, someone who really gets you. That sense of safety and support is a clear indication of care. And true friendships always involve a degree of admiration as well. You appreciate their strengths, their unique perspective, and they likely inspire you to be a better version of yourself.
And what about desire? Because we don't typically associate desire with friendship, at least not in the romantic sense.
That's true, but remember, desire isn't just about physical attraction. It's about wanting to be close to someone, to share experiences with them, to have them in your life. And in that sense, desire is absolutely present in strong friendships. We crave connection, shared laughter, deep conversations. That's all desire.
That's such a powerful reframing. It makes me realize that we often limit our understanding of love to just the romantic realm, when in reality it's so much broader, so much more expansive.
Exactly. And the article even touches on how cultivating these ingredients in all areas of our life can lead to a more fulfilling life overall. Because when we feel loved, supported, and appreciated, whether it's by a partner, a friend, a family member, or even ourselves, it creates this incredible ripple effect that touches every aspect of our being.
So it's not just about our relationships with others, it's about the relationship we have with ourselves as well.
Absolutely. And that's why self-love is so essential, because if we don't have that foundation of care, admiration, and yes, even desire for ourselves, it's difficult to authentically extend those things to others.
Which brings us back to this idea of ingredients and recipes. If care, admiration, and desire are the essential ingredients of love, then self-love is like the first recipe we need to master.
Precisely. And once we've learned to nourish ourselves with those ingredients, we can start sharing them with others in ways that are authentic and fulfilling. It's about creating a beautiful cycle of love that starts from within and radiates outwards.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. It's given me so much to think about in terms of my own relationships and how I can cultivate more character, admiration, and desire in all areas of my life. So listeners, as you go about your day, I encourage you to reflect on these ingredients as well. Where are you already experiencing them in your own life? And how can you nurture them even further?
Those are great questions to ponder. Because when we approach love as a practice, as something we actively cultivate, we open ourselves up to a world of possibility and connection.
I love that. Well, on that note, this has been an incredible deep dive into the nature of love. A huge thank you to our expert for sharing their insights with us today. And to our listeners, we encourage you to check out the original article. Let's unpack the 3 juicy ingredients of true love for even more on this fascinating topic. Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep loving.